We are talking about the exciting, fun topic of depression. No, just kidding. Yeah, we're gonna go over depression. I have something that I want to share with you today, and I think I'm making jokes because it's like pretty vulnerable. And based on we did the call last week on depression and mood, and just from our perspective, from the admin perspective, of our team, the people who reached out about that or asked if it was recorded was probably the most on a call we've had in a really long time, like as long as I can remember. And just looking at the statistics of depression and even and just trigger warning, like suicide rates with real estate agents, like we're in the top 10 of professions for that. One of the studies I read. And so a lot of people really got a lot from the call last week. And so I decided to do a part two today instead of having a guest speaker, and we talked about that. Now I do speak. I've been on hiatus for a little bit, but I've done some pretty big talks. One I was a keynote for family reunion in Europe, the first one they did in Europe. That was in 2016. And then I've been on like Inman. I've done some stuff with Gary Keller and Jay Popson, that kind of stuff. And so I was going through some of my done regional events like speeches. And so I wanted to share because some of you guys know I talked about it a little bit last time that I had gone through like major depression. And um, so I want to be kind of vulnerable because so many people related, I guess. And I'm in a great spot now. And yeah, so I haven't really done something like this before. And I know that for these calls, the most important thing in my mind is that they're real, right? You're not getting some fluff, not going to just, give you fake superficial stuff is really real. And so I want to continue this conversation about depression and mood. And just if it's okay, I want to read something I wrote when I was going through that to kind of give you an idea. Cause like life is good. Like I'm good. I'm not even on an antidepressant anymore. But since I was like 7, I was diagnosed with major depressive disorder and lived with it for so long. And I had um, so yeah, I'm going to share a lot of my story and then we're going to have some discussion. And that's what I'm thinking for today, if that's okay with everybody, because I think it's relatable. So, some of you know I ran a team in the top 100 in the world for KW with a business partner, and we were doing over 300 sales a year. This was in 2015, and I had like low level ebbed and flowed depression like my whole life. And I've been a MAPS coach for 7 years. I've been on big stages. I've owned investment properties, like all this stuff that you would never tell on social media. And being a coach now for over 7 years and coaching some top agents, you have no idea what's going on behind the scenes. And we know with ADHD we have a much higher chance of having depression, and it works differently in our brain, right? Because we have less dopamine and our serotonin and our neurochemicals are off. So it's really normal to have depression with ADHD, and a lot of realtors have ADHD, and so unless you're aware of it, you never know who's got that, right? So this was in 2015 when it really hit a wall, and I think like a lot of us, like I didn't really feel enough. I didn't feel like I was good enough. Like deep down, just as like a human thing as a coach, it really comes down to a lot of that. And so I used sales, right? And I had been on big stages and hit these crazy numbers, and it just wasn't filling it. And then we had expansion, and I launched 22 expansion locations. So these are like satellite offices to our big team, and they weren't profitable. I mean, some were, some won't. It was like a bloodbath, and I pulled money out of my Roth IRA and like emptied it out to make this work, and I lost it all, and I just hit probably one of the worst, most hopeless spots I'd been in. And so, if it's okay, I'm gonna read something a little heavy of like when it just feels vulnerable, and I know it's you guys, and you know me, but I wanna read you what I wrote and just show you. I guess the purpose of today is like how bad and hopeless it can be, and then like how good it can be, because I would never go back to this spot ever. It's been years and years. I don't have those thoughts anymore. They don't come up. And what really happened is like all this stuff had been like below the surface, and I had been trying to like stuff it down with sales and production and achievement and affirmations and gratitude, and those things are really great. And um, they were like just pushing all this stuff down instead of like really looking at it, and it all came to a head. And then I eventually like dealt with it, right? Because I couldn't not. And I'll talk about too, what I'm going to talk about is this, and then some of the key things that like pulled me out. And what I'll say first, if you've, because we've had so many people that have depression, is that, you know, a lot of times you don't just solve it in a week, right? Has anybody had like depression before, and you don't just figure it out in a day and then you feel better, right? Like it takes time. And so I had a therapist that I finally worked with that was amazing. And one of those core things, and I'm going to throw these in as I read this and kind of tell you a little bit more, is that she said things that happen slowly are permanent, and things that happen quickly are more likely to go away. So if you have depression, if you have mood stuff, and you've been in it for a really long time, what we don't realize is that when we're with that, like we're so adaptable, especially with an ADHD brain, we're so adaptable, and we're so smart, and we think of things in different ways. We don't see the progress. We don't see how it's a little bit better than it was before, especially if we go into that all or nothing thinking, right? That black and white thinking. It's never gotten better. It's never going to get better. You know, all that stuff. And so we don't realize that over time, when we sit in these depression or sadness or mood or whatever, like our brain is adapting and finding little ways to make it better. And that's so important to think about, how, like, if you've been in it forever, you're actually really good at being in it, better than you were before. And it will slowly get better, even if things don't change quickly. And remember, things that happen slowly are permanent things. So um, before I read this, like I didn't just come out of this. Like it took me a couple years to get out of this, a couple years of just layering things day after day after day and adapting. And that's why I know I'll never go back in it, because there's nothing to go back to. Like I've built bricks on every little thing that kept me there, if that makes sense. And I have so much knowledge. And so yeah, things that happen slowly are permanent. Things that happen more quickly are likely to go away, right? And so and you're getting tools, your brain's adapting, all of those things. And so just know, if you've been in it for a while, you're better at being in it than you were before. And then the other thing that I want to put out there too, and this was from the keynote I did for family reunion in Europe, in Turkey, and I talked about some of this with depression. There's this thing I think a lot of us can have, is like, I got to get happy, right? Like I got to get out of this. I can't be sad. I gotta do something. I gotta do a gratitude list. I gotta do this. And then when it doesn't work, you've done it. Sometimes it works. Sometimes when it doesn't work, how bad does that feel? You're like, oh my gosh, I'm still in it. None of my tools work. Right? It feels horrible. And so, yes, we want to use tools, but the goal is not always just to be super happy all the time. And if that's your expectation, like that's not the human experience, right? Like as they say with Buddhism, like to live is to suffer sometimes, and we don't want to suffer a lot. But if the goal is always to be so happy every day, nobody's happy every day. I worked in mental health before this. Like that's just not a thing, right? And so, and this was something I did in one of the speeches I did. But when I say like an emotion, here's what I want you to do. Like when I say an emotion, do thumbs up if it's a good emotion, and do thumbs down if it's a bad emotion. So happy, thumbs up or thumbs down. Like angry, frustrated, let's say excited. Okay, right. So like every right, exactly. So that's what a lot of us have in our mind, is that like some emotions are good, some emotions are bad. And one of the things that broke me out of this was, and with the therapist, that emotions aren't good or bad, like they just are, right? Because we get in the negative ones, like, oh gosh, I gotta get out of this. And the resistance creates this anxiety and keeps us stuck and makes things so much harder. It's kind of like when you're treading water and you're like, oh my God, and you're thrashing and you're treading water in this like deep depression or deep, as we say, negative emotion, instead of like allowing it and just slowly treading water until it passes and like letting it flow. So removing that resistance, if you're in a depressive episode, if it's a week, if it's a month, if it's a year, if it's 2 years, removing the resistance, yet still like we're going to tread water, we're going to look for tools that can alleviate a lot of anxiety. So get rid of the expectation that you need to be like super happy every day or you're not grateful, get that out of there, because that's just not normal human emotion. And so, yes, the goal is we want to be grateful, we want to see stuff, and like we also, it's okay to be human, because I was going for the ultimate, and what I learned is like I want to be human, and feel my emotions, because emotions tell us things. Anger tells us when our boundaries are being pushed, when we're not being treated fairly. Anxiety can tell us, sometimes it false fires, right? But it can help us. It's trying to protect us from some pain in the future. And so it's when we ruminate or we express them in a way that hurts others or ourselves, that's when it can be harmful. So, you ready for what I wrote? It's super heavy. So, here we go. And you know what? Let me do a screen share so you can read along with if that's easier for you. Laying in bed, watching out the window, panic attack after panic attack waved over me. Constantly working to think my way out of it. Let me pray and beg God to give me relief or an hour of sleep. Then doing affirmations. Then what I call the slasher came in. Anytime a good thought or a glimpse of hope would come, the slasher, which I imagined with a long machete, would cut right through it and take it away. Watching for the sunrise, looking for that tiny light coming up from behind the trees to signify I made it one more day. My one goal for every day of the year: not to be on time, not to clean up or do the laundry, not to eat or even be kind to people around me. At this point, I had nothing left and I had to use the fumes I was running on to keep my head hitting that pillow night after night. Laying in bed, I could barely feel my body. I've been dissociated and disconnected from my body for 2 weeks straight. I hadn't eaten in 2 days. The only thing I could keep down was milk. My body was frail. I hadn't eaten a full meal in 2 months. After laying anxiety, I finally hoisted my legs off the side of the bed. Stepping down, I almost lost my balance. My knees and heels screamed out with each step, sometimes giving out. I had pushed them beyond their limits with no fuel for months. See, the one thing that saved me were those old, tattered, dirty, dusty Nike shoes. Amongst my looming foreclosure, my negative bank account, and my constant panic attacks, there was one thing that kept me here. Suicidal thoughts ran rampant constantly. I couldn't go 5 minutes without the urge to end this misery. The urge to end my life would hit me like semi trucks, one after the other, coming from all directions. One part of me giving in, the other part of me fighting with the last fumes I had. When I couldn't fight it any longer, no matter what I had, I would go, or no matter what, I would go to the shoes, lace them up, and walk one foot after the other, sometimes for 6 hours at a time, depending on the severity. I'd walk until I was so tired I knew it wouldn't do anything. Sometimes in winter, I'd walk for hours in a t shirt and shorts. I was so disconnected from my body, I didn't feel cold, and my first priority was surviving. And getting frostbite was the only sensation I could feel in my numbness. I wanted to feel anything strongly, some fight to survive, some little passion for comfort, or something better. One time I sat in a car in a grocery store parking lot for 5 hours watching people just so I wouldn't be alone, yet I was so scared of everyone or telling anyone what I was going through. Sometimes God takes away everything you love, everything that keeps you stable, knocks you down, and breaks you into a million pieces. And the only way to move forward is to step on God's feet and let Him grab your hands and dance with Him like a little child dancing with their father for the rest of your life. In return, you're washed clean and become a new person. I haven't read that before to anybody. So that was like it. And these, I had shoes, and I called them my suicide shoes. And I would, when I got to that point, I would just, you can't really think, right? And that's the thing when you're in a spot like that, like you can't access anything good. Like the brain just shuts it off, right? And so I trained myself to just go to the shoes and I would walk for, like I said, 6 hours, 4 hours, 5 hours until I was too tired to do anything or endorphins kicked in. I felt a little bit better. And I did that. And I still like, and I thought about this week, like I still have problems with my knees, right? When you're not eating, you're not sleeping, and you're walking. And I didn't have money for shoes because I lost everything. But I was like this big name in Keller Williams and on stages. Right. And I was so scared to tell anybody because I built this whole thing and I was terrified of anybody finding out. And so I didn't tell anyone, like literally no one. I was isolated in this for months and months. And it was horrible. But I would go to those shoes and I would just walk. But my knees and my joints and stuff, I still have issues. And I had a really big turning point in my life. And it's not all the time, right? I've been on supplements. I mean, I'm good. And I just want to say that, like, I am good. My goal is to live to 114 because 14 is my lucky number. So I will never go back to that again because I climbed out of it slowly over years with tools and people and help. And you can't go back to that, right? And so I had this turning point because I would get out of bed and my knees would hurt. I'd be like, oh gosh, and it would remind me of that time. And I switched it. This was probably 2, 3 years ago to when I felt that it was this reminder that I was still here. Like I had another day. And that changed a lot for me. And so I've like permanently switched that association in my mind whenever my knees hurt that I'm still here. And so I wanted to share that because we don't talk about this stuff a lot. And especially right, this was like I'd already built a great career, and I didn't want to tell anybody. I mean anybody. And what happened eventually, I just I went to my mom's and just like fell apart on the floor and told her everything, and she just handed me tissues and listened. And I went and like got a therapist. that was really good. And I went to my doctor and I got on antidepressants that like helped me so much. And I started telling my friends and I started seeing. And if you've had, have you had depression before and you feel like you can't tell people, like it'd be negative or they think differently of you or you're having a hard time, you don't want to put them, it's just so wild because it's the opposite, right? Like you call somebody that cares about you and then like they want to help. And so what I learned is like I had been so isolated and independent up to that point in my life. Like I picture myself as like a lone wolf, especially with ADHD and autism and PTSD and all kinds of stuff, other stuff in my story. And so I saw myself as a lone wolf. And that moment of seeking help, which is like the opposite of what depression tells you to do, I learned how many people love me and how connected I was. And it totally changed my whole view of myself in the world. And like, I'm not a lone wolf. I don't want to be a lone wolf. Being a lone wolf is horrible. But having people around you all the time is just wonderful. So it brought on this like connection and love and everything that was amazing. And there was a quote that I saw as well that really kept me going was like if something I'm gonna butcher it, but it's like the size of the pain is equal to the size of the blessing that's coming. And I mean that was deep, right? That was heavy. And I will say there's way more blessing that came, like with how heavy that was, with how good my life is, and how much better, how sustainable that is. It's not these like big highs or whatever. Like it's the sustainable, good, peaceful, happy that I couldn't even fathom. I really believe that quote. And so, yeah, and yeah, you learn so much, right? And then when you've been through something else, like with ADHD, we can have deep empathy. And one of the biggest gifts I think you can give someone is being present and being able to like listen and be in it with them. And so, if I mean, who's gone through something heavy or really hard? Who's been, I mean, like all of us, right? Especially with ADHD, we feel deeper, we pick up more details. And so, what you'll find is that, and we're really real, we don't do small talk. You all have such a gift to give people because I don't know if we realize how many people shy away when someone's talking about something heavy or having a hard time. It's like we shy, that people shy away. They don't know how to handle it. They don't know what to do. And yet, if you've gone through something heavy, you're not gonna, because I've been through that and I could talk about it, right? Like I'm good. I'm gonna go walk my dogs after this and hang out with friends. Like I can talk about this, but other people are going through something hard, just like they can with you, can talk about it, and it's not gonna bring me down. I'm not gonna be weird. I can hold space for it. And then that person doesn't feel alone, right? Yeah, because they don't, yeah, as Catherine said in the comments, like they don't know what to say or how to handle it. It's like, oh gosh. Whereas if you tell me you're going through this, and I've had some people reach out, I've done some calls, like I can be in there right there with you and hold space for it. And then you don't feel alone, you know? And so if you've been through something hard, that's a really beautiful, beautiful gift. So I told you guys about my flashcards. That's something I did to keep going, right? I made flashcards of all the things I love, the people who love me, sensations like, you know, at my grandma's house or memories, like something to give me the tiniest little glint of happiness or hope. So that's something I'd pull out and go through the flashcards when it got really, really heavy. Another thing I did is it's really really interesting is lifting weights. I mean, I played semi-pro and college soccer, and I also did track and field in college as well. And so, and health and wellness major. And so, it's maybe you know, like when you lift weights, why we build muscle. But essentially, what happens when we lift weights is, yeah, we tear the muscle, right? There are these tiny tears that happen um, in the like muscle fibers, right? And then when the muscle fibers repair the tears, it actually like brings in new muscle proteins and it fills in those spaces, and that's why we grow muscle. And so another principle that I really kept with me, because there were like some key things that I just thought about all the time that kept me going, was that concept that I learned in when I was like majoring in health and wellness. And so every time I felt so broken down, like literally so broken down, I felt like I couldn't get up. It was like, oh, like the muscles are tearing. And so if I just wait long enough, they're going to build back up. Right. And I'm a totally different person than if I wouldn't have gone through that. I mean, I would not be here because, I just wouldn't. I mean, like, if I hadn't gone through the depression, I wouldn't be in the space where I can like do stuff like this and handle stuff and handle pressure and just like handle, I don't know. I just feel like very strong. I mean, even if I like got in an accident and lost all my limbs, like I'd roll me up, I'd be an inspirational speaker. Like I'd figure it out. Like there's nothing that can take me down. And that's the other thing. When you've been something through something hard, and if you're in it, you don't know this yet. When you've been through something hard and then you get through it, even psychology talks about this, is like you build confidence in yourself, right? So if you think I'm confident, and I can, I'm still working on my self-worth stuff, but we all are, but I feel really confident. I can go do some big stuff and feel really confident. It's because of all the crap I've been through. It's not because it was easy. It's because I've seen what I can get through. And so when something else big happens, I know I can get through it. There's no question in my mind. Like I will get as close to 114 years old as I can, and I will never go through something like I did again ever. Like I won't, you know. So if you're going through hard stuff, there are some things to know about that like it does really get better. And then sleep deprivation. I was sleeping like 1 or 2 hours a night because I was panic attacks. I couldn't calm it down, right? I wasn't eating. My whole system was in survival mode. And so I used to freak out about not getting sleep. And now I'm like, hey, buddy, you literally survived on 1 hour a night and sleep deprivation. So if I get in a late flight, like when I flew into Turkey to speak during the like the suicide bombing those have, they flew me in to do that. I had like 3 hours of sleep. I like was good. I didn't even worry about it. 'Cause I'm like, oh dude, I did like 1 hour a night for a month, right? So it does really like change you to go through stuff, and it sucks when you're in it, and when you get out of it, um, yeah, it's just this amazing thing, and you get to keep all the gifts, and then do therapy to work through the trauma and let go of the not good gifts, right? So so if there's anybody going through a hard time, my goal is that you feel less alone, or like you're encouraged to talk about, because you don't see me like less than now, right? Are you gonna not come on and call next week because I don't have credibility, or you think, man, this guy's too negative, right? I mean, you might miss it because you have an appointment, but that's what I want to show too. Like, do you think less of me or more of me? Do you think like I'm less professional? Right? Like you probably have respect for me, as anybody that's gone through something hard, right? And you might even like me more because I've been vulnerable. So remember that when you're scared to open up to people, that it's the opposite of what we really think. All right. Well,
Yes.
everybody have a wonderful rest of your day. Thanks for being here.